Do you feel like weed is a gateway drug?
No. If you start with something and what you were seeking is not in that thing ain't making you go to other things. Stop using the thing that never even touched you as the reason for you seeking what you wanted.
You might have seen me on your For You page telling my story, but now I'm giving others a voice. Welcome to the Lexo Show. For this episode, we took our talents all the way to the West Indies, to a beautiful little island called St. Vincent and the Grenadines. For years across the Caribbean, weed has been treated like a crime. People have lost freedom, jobs, even their lives over a plant that grows naturally from the earth. But not every island sees it the same way anymore. In St. Vincent and the Grenadines, they made a move that changed everything. They legalized medical marijuana. While most islands still punish it, Vincentians can now grow it, sell it, and celebrate it legally. And I wanted to see what that looks like with my own eyes.
How long has it been medicinal here?
Probably like 3 years now.
3 years? And how you think it changed it?
Changing the amount of marijuana that I used to plant before and planting again.
Anybody's allowed to plant, or you have to have a license to plant?
Nah, you must have a license. You could plant at your own risk.
Okay. But legally you need a license?
Yeah, you need a license. And the license is only to plant, not to supply.
As soon as we landed, we ain't waste no time. Went to the store, grabbed a couple things, then we headed right to the room. See that little island? That's Beckway. The place that we stayed at was so beautiful. It was ran by this family. They were so nice to us. Made us feel like we were at home. You know I brought my boy Saisha with me.
My name is Saisha Williams. Most people know me as Lion. I've been in Grenada since 2012. And I was supposed to visit St. Vincent a long time now, and I haven't. So this will be my first time actually being on island and tasting weed from St. Vincent in St. Vincent. That's kind of sick. Speaking of we talking about weed, we actually in St. Vincent to take on the Cannabis convention, and I'm hoping to check out the farms to find out what they have seen as some of the pitfalls that we should avoid on our side. So for example, they still haven't addressed adult use, quote unquote, recreational marijuana. However, they have created an environment where the police don't really pressure people for recreational marijuana. You shouldn't have to feel like if I run into the wrong police, I get charged for something.
We hit the road immediately, headed right to the festival.
It's your boy Lexo 316. We're here in St. Vincent for the Cannabis Marijuana Festival. We about to go check it out.
This place was absolutely beautiful. I never seen nothing like this in the Caribbean. Even though St. Vincent's weed laws are more lenient than any other island in the West Indies, there's still a lot of people that feel like the government shouldn't have their nose in it at all.
Marijuana was never criminalized in that. There was a statutes, code, and ordinance. What happens so the people are being tricked, coerced, and forced into duress, so they submit without knowing their own rights. These we're called agents of a de facto company, and the word de facto means something that don't have no real authority. SVG is a de facto company, and St. Vincent is a de facto company. Then we look at the word abolishment. Do you understand the definition of abolish?
What's that?
Abolish means to hand over everything back to the indigenous people, which means the land and the resources. If you hand over the land and the resources, why is the company still on the land? Why is the de facto company St. Vincent still doing it? Right? And the Prime Minister is only a CEO. Them is what this guy's in. The people have to just wake up and the whole table turn over. It's like the ship, it's sailing on the sea now. It have a little hole in it, but they keep patching it fritz.
On the other hand, it's people that absolutely love the law and want it to stay exactly how it is.
I like the movement. I really like what the St. Vincent government in particular is doing, because I think they're setting the pace and setting the standard for what is to come around the region. With this Cannabis Festival, this is the second year running for them. So it's a good look. It brings everybody in and around the industry together, which is good. The networking has been amazing. So just having a festival is area to showcase everybody that have the products, anybody that in and around. It's been good.
Yeah, so we run into a little conundrum here, and it's something I've been trying to forecast at home as well. The licensing and permitting regulation here, or regime, it's based on land. So if you have land, you can get a permit to grow. However, they won't give you a permit to sell. The people without land can get a permit to sell and can get a permit to grow. That leaves everybody with weed and nobody can sell it.
Basically, the government allows people who own land to get a permit to grow weed, but not to sell it. People who don't own land can't get any permit at all, not to grow or sell. That creates a catch-22, where there's a lot of weed being grown legally, but no one is allowed to legally sell it.
Do you feel like weed is a gateway drug?
No.
No? Explain.
Sugar is the gateway drug.
I'd explain why weed is not and why sugar is.
Sugar is the most addictive substance known to man, basically.
You don't think weed is
No.
addictive?
Well, no, everything can be addictive, especially if you have the addictive personality traits. However, it's proven that sugar is the most addictive, one of the most addictive substance known to man. The weirdest part is that they give it to us from the moment we get out the belly. So we don't even have a choice whether we can choose to be addicted to this substance.
Right.
We are made to be addicted to this substance. Yet, when we have things like access to weed, which we can wean ourselves off of these addictive substances, they tell us no. That's why weed is used to treat opioid addiction and shit like that. Because it does help. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
If it was a gateway drug, why are we using it to get off a drug?
The only reason I would say it was a gateway drug, because I've been to rehab. I've been around drug addicts for years.
Right.
And I've never met a drug addict that didn't start with weed. Not one.
Start with weed?
Yeah. I've never met someone just smoke crack off the rip or just start sniffing coke.
Right, but is that causality? So if you start with something and what you were seeking is not in that thing ain't making you go to other things. Stop using the thing that never even touch you as the reason for you seeking what you wanted. That's the responsibility we have to take in our decisions. What I wanted was to get fucking high. This didn't do it. All right, moving the fuck on.
When you say it like that, it makes sense. And I say gateway because it's the introduction showing you what high is. Like, this is a lot of people first high.
No, and that's what I say. No. When you eat food, that's why they call it foodgasms. You get high off of food because that shit is so good. Oh my God, I'm gonna dead. That's why you fall the fuck out sleeping.
Right.
Should you stop eat food?
You're right.
Is food a gateway drug?
You're right. When I think about it, it is the high that you're chasing because I never fulfilled the high. Even when I was using fentanyl,
You still
I never got high enough.
Because what you individually were chasing, these things were not providing, so you kept moving to the next thing. Because if this is the gateway drug, you ain't never gonna get off drugs. Because there's always something outside of you you looking to blame or put the response. No, I was wanted to get fucking high and I didn't get it, so I kept moving on to other things until I find it.
On accident that I got to the strongest drug there was.
You see?
I was looking for a high that didn't even exist.
Exists. No, it did exist.
I don't think so.
Yeah, it does.
What is that? What high is that?
Inside there. It's in you.
The next morning, we hit the road. We went on what's called the farm tour, where they showed us where all the medical weed is grown in St. Vincent. It was crazy. I never seen nothing like this. Plants everywhere.
My name is Marlon Joseph, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, work with the SVG Tourism Authority. Legislation was passed in 2018 to allow Vincentians to use cannabis for medicinal use. I'm happy to see, for instance, that many of the traditional farmers, when I say the traditional farmers of cannabis or ganja as we used to call it here, I'll still call it in St. Vincent, are those who were harassed by the law, who were prosecuted, who went to prison, and now they are being integrated into the economy with medicinal cannabis, where many of them have their licenses, because what the government has done is that it has made licensing free for traditional growers of cannabis. So to see how they have moved from being criminalized to being integrated into a multi-billion-dollar industry, I think that is a progressive and big step.
Now this guy right here, straight baller. As you can see, he got a solid Cuban link on, Rolex. This is the owner of the cannabis farm.
Were you in St. Vincent before the laws changed?
Yeah, I've been here for like the last 15 years. I lived in Toronto before, but I've been here.
Since the laws changed, like, how has it affected business, the island? How do you think it's affected, like, everyone as a whole?
Well, I think it's constantly evolving. We've always been a traditional ganja country, so it's just a little bit more open and free, but still, it was always pretty available, and we have a lot of history in it. But I think it definitely has a positive effect.
And are there, like, have you had any difficulties with running a business like this? Are there a lot of technicalities? Do they harass you? Like, what's it like for you?
No, it's been pretty smooth. No issues at all with those.
The age here is 18, right?
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? Do you think 18 is good? Do you think it should be 21? Or?
I don't know. I actually never even really put too much thought into it. I guess like 21 may be better.
Yeah.
If you look at the studies and so, probably better for the brain development and that kind of thing.
That's my argument. In terms of when you're outside of Vinci, a lot of people try to make it seem like Vinci is a very violent place.
Yeah.
How has that aspect affected your business here? Or has it affected your business at all?
Not really. We had like a one incident so far. I think it was two, like with people trying.
Planter too.
Yeah, but it's not really.
Not big.
It hasn't been too crazy, especially since we put the fence in and so around. Hasn't been too crazy.
So do you think marijuana bring crime?
I wouldn't think so. I actually think that the country does good when we have a lot of cannabis circulating. It's good for the economy.
Same thing like having money. You have money, you trying to rob somebody?
Right, exactly.
The next place we went was a lab, where they made concentrates, edibles, lotions, extracts, all kind of different stuff. It was crazy to see this in the West Indies. It felt like I was in California or something.
Do you mind? I just have like 1 or 2 questions.
Sure.
Okay.
But I don't want you to miss the bus.
Yeah, it's outside. All right, real quick. So, with you coming from Canada and it being like fully legal and stuff, do you think that the Caribbean can handle like something like that, fully recreational?
Eventually, yes. I think it will take a little bit of time because there are still some areas that have a lot of stigma about it. In the way that the industry has changed over just these 5 years, I hope that in 5 years or less from now, we are at a point where recreation is possible.
And with the decriminalization, do you think that's helped the island or hurt it as a whole?
As a whole, it helped. There's a little bit more legitimacy and understanding of the products and the different types of items available within cannabis, and helped people to see a cannabis lotion came from the same plant that these buds come from. So it can have a variety of uses and be helpful for people who are not interested in smoking as well.
And last question, as far as the age, it's 18 right now, right?
Yes.
Do you think that 18 is too low, or do you think that's right where it's supposed to be?
I think it's still a little bit low,
Okay.
but in fact, I did not consume cannabis until I was 20.
Okay.
So your brain is still developing as you go along, and it really needs looked at and considered.
I'm not gonna lie, things were looking bright over here in St. Vincent. It was crazy to see something like this in the West Indies. Our next stop was Grenada to talk to criminal defense lawyer Peter David about Grenada's harsh marijuana laws.
Are you willing to take a plea on this thing? My name is Peter David. I'm Member of Parliament for the town of St. George in Grenada, which is a city, and also attorney at law, practice criminal defense.
So I just came back from St. Vincent, and over there, the weed is like decriminalized, and it's even legal medicinally. But in Grenada, it's still criminalized. How do you feel the laws are? And
Well, you know, that's been a problem for many years. The issue of cannabis and its legality, the availability, it's been a challenge because I think government is a little bit schizophrenic about it in the sense that they're promised to legalize. In fact, they said legalize, then they said criminalize. In fact, the previous government, which lost the election 3 years ago, had presented, in fact, I was Minister of Agriculture then at the time, in fact, and I presented a bill to the Parliament to decriminalize small quantities. I think it was 5 ounces and allowing people to have 5 trees. That was before Parliament when the election came, so it never made it.
how often do you deal with weed cases?
You know, if I say every day, it might sound like an exaggeration, but literally everyday cases come before me for some months, sometimes every day in a month. Sometimes there's a little bit of a pause, but very regularly, I would say, at all levels. You get a kid walking down the road smoking a joint, or have a joint in his pocket, he's searched, he gets locked up for that, for possession. And in Grenada, with a small quantity, you also get locked up for trafficking, and that can, according to the law, send you to jail for 5 years. It can cost you $250,000 EC dollars, the equivalent of about $100,000 US dollars, and it really is draconian. And you know, I've had to plead to magistrates to not give a criminal record to a university student at St. George's University who was found with a half a joint and facing expulsion from university because of that. So there was this plan accepted by the churches. The plan was accepted by the unions, all of the social organizations in Grenada accepted decriminalization of small quantities. There were consultations all over the country. But I think there is a problem in the courts in that quite a number of people are ending up with criminal records and therefore affecting their jobs, affecting their ability to travel, their ability to get visas, affecting their school education, and that has been a problem. And I think we have the solution, but the government has just stalled, and you need to speak to the government to find out.
That's crazy how two islands could be so close to each other with such different views on weed. In St. Vincent, it's decriminalized, but in Grenada, you can receive a trafficking charge for a joint, which can lead to a $250,000 fine or 20 years in jail. Crazy. This was more than a trip. It was a lesson in how perspective changes everything. I'm not here to tell you what's right or wrong. Honestly, I'm not even sure myself. Do I believe that weed is a gateway drug? I kinda do. But did this trip open up my mind? Absolutely. And it made me realize that not everyone is an addict. Some people can smoke weed and just stick to weed. Somebody like me cannot. But this trip was amazing and it really opened my eyes up. Hopefully, all the other surrounding islands can develop these same laws that St. Vincent has.